Hello.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Morgan Feeney, and you might have seen my face on Google, believe it or not. Thanks to Google Plus. So, yeah, I'm a designer. So, I design and the code. Obviously, it's a bit easier to say the web designer and front-end developer. It's a bit less of a mouthful, but thanks to Ethan Marcotte, he coined the term. I read his book. So yeah, I don't really call myself a designer. There he is. We've got the same barber as well. So there's a bit of trivia as well for you guys. I did a bit of research into the word freelance, what it actually means, and it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously we all know it. You can either be self-employed, or you can be like a director of a limited company. But I was looking at like the historical explanation and revealed that it was a medieval mercenary quite a while ago, which I found quite interesting. So it used to be like that. It was obviously the two words free and lance. It does actually come from that term. So there you go, yeah. So, Rich hit on this before. If you set up your own limited company, there are benefits. You can obviously pay less tax, which is the first, most obvious benefit. You save 9% of your national insurance contributions, which is brilliant. So that's the main benefit. But other than that, you can be self-employed, as a sole trader, working in almost mercenary fashion. Yeah, how it all started for me. So I hit a mental brick wall. I was working, I had my notice in a year last February with my previous employer. It started off as a really sort of creative, furtive environment. Really enjoyed what I was doing. Loved getting up every day and going to work. And yeah, it was fantastic. Brilliant job. Great job. But that happened. We ended up with like a sales board on the wall, these whiteboards, and it sucked basically. It sucked big time. And we had pressure, basically big pressure. We had to churn websites out. So we went from like developing sort of bespoke websites to churning out like websites like we were going out of fashion basically. Yeah, so I didn't like that. It wasn't good. It was like a web design factory. It really was. It's like Aunt Bessie used to make, but only cheesier. So yeah, I mean, we had targets to meet. We had deadlines. There was a board on the wall. The creativity was just sucked out of it. The fun was sucked out of it. I hated it. So all these things were happening, and cogs were ticking. I'd been there for 2.5 years as well. So I was kind of making up my mind as well, and obviously I see it as a craft. You designing these things, you put a lot of love into them, care about what you do, and it's like being an artist. You work on something, it's your name on it, isn't it? You've put your heart and soul into it, and you don't want that sort of taken away from you. So I was against the sort of the methodology there, and that was another thing they used to say as well. Tesco's of the internet. It's not good. So I prefer Booths anyway. So there you go. Yeah. So it was a while ago. Yeah, a year last February. So at that time, I don't know if any of you guys visited Web Designer Wall. Yeah, you did. Great, you did. But it's a bit like CSS Tricks. They've got like tutorials. It's a very social sort of tutorial-based website. CSS Tricks is obviously kicking its ass, but yeah, back then I used to sort of look at these sites, and I noticed one day I was like, "What the fuck?" Moving the window, and it was like, I was like, "What is this? Stuff's moving, changing size," and I was like, "Brilliant." And I was like, I went into the boss and said, "Have you seen this?" Because at the time they were selling, they were churning out. Not only were they churning out, the websites, the 3-page websites, but they were sort of upselling to these same clients with like a mobile version of this crap website. And I was like, well, you should be doing this, you know. They just started doing it and doing these mobile sites, but they didn't really twig. So, and yeah, at that time, so it was all for me. I don't know if anybody else noticed it any sooner than that. I started to notice that responsive was just starting to take off at that point. So that's when this book came out, pretty much. I read it then. That's when I left, basically. So, sort of, yeah, that was another reason to leave, and I sort of got into responsive at that point. And there we go, yeah. So, kind of cheated a bit and written it all down on the slides so I can read it out to you guys. But obviously, reasons why I quit. Didn't have enough time to work on my own website. Obviously, you need a website, you've got to go and promote yourself. One of the main things I wanted was, when I left, was to be able to go and apply for a job somewhere. I didn't actually mean to be a freelancer. The aspiration was to leave, support myself for a little bit of time, do a website and apply for work. But anyway, things changed. So they were stuck in the past. They weren't into open source technology like WordPress, Magento, stuff like you've got like millions of people. It's like a hive network. People developing the same stuff. They made their own crappy versions. And time constraints, they got in the way. I wanted to do more work on the side, but I couldn't because I was working in this job. So, you know, I wasn't available to take on this work, this extra work that was there. There you go. Yeah, there wasn't much of a plan. Didn't have a website, didn't even have a portfolio anywhere. I had one job lined up. I had a couple of grand in the bank, and worked from home, and there was no guarantee of anything. Just basically like, let's see how this goes. So, yeah, but the things that I did have was determination, passion, skills, self-belief, and I did have support as well, which kind of like gave me the confidence I needed. And then, yeah, so the pressure started stacking up. I'd left my job and no money coming in. You know, I've no website. What the fuck am I going to do? What am I doing? So, and then on top of all that, my wife went and got pregnant. I know, exactly. So, you know, Dexter was conceived that as soon as I left, my son was conceived, basically. And that was like, brilliant. Just what I need. Kick up the arse. And then, so, yeah, but that added pressure did actually help me. Because there was no choice, there was no excuse, basically, for anything. So, had to do it. It was do or die. Yeah, as I've just said. I've already said this. There was no plan. I did have one client. The job was worth a few grand, so it was all right. Recommendations are good. Yeah. What happened when I left was I was available, basically. I was available for the work, whereas before I wasn't available, but I was still getting offered the work. Trying to fit that work in while you've got a full-time job is nigh on impossible, isn't it? Yeah. What are you going to do? How are you going to live? You're not going to be able to do it. So you've got to bite the bullet at some point, make the break, give yourself the time you need to do what you want to do. But yeah, because I left, I was able to build a portfolio of projects. They actually got in the way of me doing my actual portfolio, but I was building up a portfolio all the time. So when it did get to the point where I could actually build my site, I'd actually have some work to show off to potential clients, which is what it's all about. Yeah, and I got to do responsive as well. So all my sites were responsive at that point, whether they liked it or not. It was, I'm going to practice on you. You're going to get this great thing that it's the future. There you go. So yeah, networking. We're here, aren't we? Obviously, this is a bit of networking. You never know. You might get some of you might get some work out of this. You never know. Who knows? But you've got to get out there. You can do it physically. You can do it via social networks. I've had a couple of jobs just from being listed on the WordPress user group. Yeah, and that's obviously because I've got a portfolio as well. So it's not just having a link on there. I've got a solid portfolio of commercial jobs now. So obviously, they associate that with quality as well. Going to the WordPress user group because of obviously it's run by Mike Little, isn't it? So anyway, yeah, I've got found through there a couple of times. I've got 2 pretty good jobs with several £1,000s just from a free listing on a social network. Brilliant, can't beat it. LinkedIn as well, as I said before, the recruiters, yeah, they do your tits in, and they've offered me shitloads of opportunities and bombing me with emails and stuff that aren't even relevant. Some of them care more than others. There's a particular agency in Manchester that actually they come across as like they actually do give a toss. They will only try and set you up with somebody that they think you can work with, which is good. And I've even got asked, whereas normally you'd probably have to go in and work on a contract or something, a short-term contract or whatever on site. The one job I got offered was just doing a freelance job at home for a set price, which is my cup of tea. So there's a variety of different opportunities that come about. Some of them are stupid, like being a Magento developer for Amazon, which I'm not going to do. Can't do it. So yeah, it wasn't my intention to become a freelancer. It happened. It just happened because it was available. Making myself available was a necessary step. There we go. Jump the gun. Yeah. So basically, without those recommendations coming in, when I left, I would have had to get a job, which is fair enough, but that wasn't. It was the plan, but without the recommendations, it was like a necessary evil, if you will. Yeah. It's kind of like I wanted to get my site up and running, but the recommendations were getting in the way. But they were also bringing money in, putting food on the table. So, and without them, I would have been. Who knows? It's tough out there getting a job. I don't know if you've applied for work recently, but it's very competitive. And yeah, I was meeting clients and having to sort of gloss over the fact that I didn't have a portfolio, which is pretty cool, But I did have work. To show them. So technically, I did have a portfolio of existing clients, of existing work, a track record, so I could show them that. Okay, yeah. So you've got to target your audience. So you hit on this before: SEO, direct mail, networking, social networking, very important. Social networking is free as well, which is great. So, are you all devs in here? You all freelance developers, front-end developers? Yeah, designers? Yeah, cool. Okay, so who are your target audience? You're probably looking to get work from. If you were working freelance like I am, I'd be looking to get work from agencies, small businesses, people like that. But obviously you've got to do your keyword research as well. You've got to see what searches are being done out there, and make sure you gear your site up to be relevant for those search terms. It's very important. Yeah, so a bit about me, practical information. I work from home. I work remotely, so I do have a business partner as well. I do a lot of e-commerce work, do a lot of Magento stuff with him. We just communicate through Skype, but it works. It's very low cost as well. I work remotely, but I'm not adverse to going in and meeting people at all. Email, text, social media. I like calling people. I like chatting. I'm not adverse to that. I like dealing directly with the client as often as I can. And yeah, so we usually meet up with a client after we've talked money and agreed on the price of a proposal, which is necessary. You've got to put everything in writing. Protects you, protects them. And you've just got to make sure everything's written down. Believe it or not everybody does it. You can get stung if you're freelance, people can take advantage of you, can take advantage of your naivety, your lack of experience, and if they don't want to pay you and you've given them a website, then how can you get that money? You know? Yeah. So if you do meet a client who's going to withhold payment, luckily it's not happened to me. It happened once years ago, and it was a really small amount of money. Ever since then, it's not really been a problem. But I know people it has happened to. Last thing you want to do is end up in court trying to get whatever is it, like 500 quid or a couple of £1,000, something like that. You don't want the stress. You don't want the aggravation. You don't want any of that. So you've got to pick your clients as well. Don't just work with anybody. I've not had much agency work myself, so I do get a lot of Joe blogs, Joe Public off the street, finding me, calling me up. I've no idea who they are, but you've got to sort of build up a relationship at some point and talk money. So there's got to be some trust there at the end of the day.
You take a deposit as well?
Yes, always take a deposit, yeah, always. Yeah. Has anybody worked here without taking a deposit? Did it work out all right?
Yeah, once I had to wait about 9 months for an invoice.
It's not fair, is it? It's not fair.
But I got it in the end. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Somebody else put their hand up there? Yeah. How did that go for you?
Not well.
No?
No. Didn't pay at the end.
They didn't
I
pay?
learned after that though.
Yeah. It's a hard lesson, isn't it? One you'd rather not learn, but I suppose once it's learned, you're going to stick to your guns, aren't you? Yeah. But yeah, I always get a deposit up front. My favourite deposit is 50% of the project. That's my favourite one. But I mean, you can also use like getting a deposit to entice people to give you the business, whereas they might not want to give you 50% if you're talking about £5,000 for a job, whatever it is. That's probably the largest job I've worked on. That's the value of it. So you can sort of say you can stagger it. You can get an initial deposit of 30%, and then once they've got the design proof, if they're happy with that, you can then take another 30%, and then at the end you can get the final amount. Some people find it a bit more comfortable, but you're still in control because you've not given them that design.
So do they pay you before you have the design?
Well, yeah. So it's an initial deposit to start the work. So are you serious or not? If you are, give me money, then we can work. We're quite fortunate. We've got a lot of good customers at the minute. So, but the ones that don't like it when you put things in writing, they're the ones that you want to avoid. But the fact you've put it in writing initially scares them off. Yeah, because you look like you know what you're talking about. In fact, you probably do, but you actually look like you do. You've got some authority there, and it's a contract as well. Yeah. The fact you've emailed it them from you and they've received it, and you can do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so get that deposit, do the design. We might do a bit of keyword research, whatever it is, the initial stages, and then give them the design. If they don't pay you at that point, well, they've paid you 30% of £5,000 to have a design on like a JPEG. So, do you know what I mean? It kind of works. And then the next stage is, right, give me the other 30% and we'll start the development. And then by that time, they've paid 60%, you're developing it on your own server. Yeah?
So you still got it.
You've got total control. Sorry, people on YouTube. Sorry, customers. But yeah, you've got to have a good hand, basically. Otherwise, they can just pull out the ace at the end. So there you go. What's next? Is that it? All right. Is that it?